It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. It has been just over a week now, and man, I missed you guys. I was on the road taking care of some business stuff, and then up in Oregon, running in the woods for a day. And man, just had a lot going on last week, and it was near impossible with the West Coast, East Coast, all that kind of stuff thing going on for me to be able to get this done. Being in, I was in Pittsburgh, Salt Lake City, Vegas, Spokane, Washington, and Portland, all from Tuesday to Thursday. So, and then stayed in Portland for the weekend, ran the Silver Falls 50K, the Silver Falls Marathon 50K, which we're going to talk about here this morning. But it is Tuesday, November 5th. Man, time is flying. The year is almost over. And I want to talk to you guys this morning about some of the lessons that I brought out of running that race. I think that anybody that has ever done something like that or attempted something like that, certainly the biggest thing that you can say walking away from it is that, man, you just learn a ton, man. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about that thing that you've never done before. You feel accomplished. Even I did not finish the full 31 miles. I made it 26 miles and change, as you guys probably saw from the post. And I missed the cutoff time. So there's cutoff times that have to go. You got to make it to certain distances and aid stations in a certain amount of time. And I was having a really rough time with the up and down hills. Believe it or not, the downhills became more of a problem towards the end of that race for me than the uphills, because the uphills are just, it's just a lot of muscle burn and it doesn't feel very good. But the downhills really pound on your joints quite a bit, and that started to really affect me, and I was unable to run down those hills. I literally was like sideways, like kind of shimmying down the steep hills. Like this course had about 4,000 feet of positive incline. When you go positive 4,000, obviously you got to come back down. So it's just a lot of up and down, and so that just bangs on your joints quite a bit. And so I made it 26 miles and change before I got cut off. I could have continued. I still would have got a DNF, but there was a huge downhill at the end, and my left knee at the time felt like it was about to fall off. So I thought it was a better decision to not continue at that point and, not risk a serious injury or anything like that. Hindsight being 2020, my knee feels pretty good now. I wish I would have continued, but you live and you learn, and that's what we're here to talk about this morning. So, number one, I want to give a shout out to all the guys that we ran with. So, Javier, who I met for the first time out there in Oregon, Keith Calloway, Gabe Calloway, Keith's brother. Gabe finished the marathon in just over 5 hours, which was impressive. If you guys would have seen this course, you would understand. It is just a massive amount of hills. So anybody that finishes gets kudos. But to finish in that speed, and I believe that was Gabe's first race ever as well. So Gabe, Keith, Javier, Eli from my team at the Pavement Group, unbelievable. He finished the Ultra in just over 7 hours, I believe. And then John Cedarleaf from K&L Industries out in Portland. John, I think, finished the marathon in about 6 hours. So all in all, though, just an awesome weekend. Building relationships that just take your friendships and everything to the next level. There's something about suffering together and being willing to take on those types of challenges that just they forge friendships to a whole new level. And if you guys don't have friends that encourage you to do that kind of thing, I'll give you guys a story. I did not sign up for this marathon. I got signed up for this marathon by Mr. Keith Calloway. I just received the email in my email box that said, congratulations, you've been signed up. You signed up for the Silver Falls Marathon. And I'm like, man, what the hell is the Silver Falls Marathon? I don't even know what this is. So I quickly Googled it and figured out what I signed myself up for. And I said, man, let's do it, right? I've never run a race like that before. I've never run any race in my life before, by the way. And it was quite a feeling to get out there. It's a strange feeling for me specifically. I know that the other guys, I know what it looked like for them at the finish line, that feeling of accomplishment. For me, it's a strange feeling because it's a feeling of, not making it. So a feeling of failure, but at the same time, such a feeling of accomplishment to make it as far as I did and to push myself, my body, my limits as far as I did feels really great. I can tell you that I will be back to do that race again next year, and I will absolutely be far more prepared, and I will definitely punch the ticket and finish that thing off next year. And in between, I'm sure I'll do plenty more races in between now and then. But I want to talk to you guys about some of the things that went into, running that race, and then also, kind of what you figure out about yourself while you're out there. Actually, what you figure out about yourself during training. So I'll take you guys back to April of this year. So April of this year, I don't know if it was April or March, but I was in Anguilla with my buddies, with Judd Burden and Kevin Gray. Amy was down there. And so we went for a workout on the beach in the morning. And, guys, listen, we all, we get to points in our lives where we get busy and we stop paying attention and we're just eating whatever and drinking whatever, and we're just kind of going day to day and just making it, and months go by, years go by, and you're not really paying attention. And so that morning on the beach, we're doing a workout, and, I was always in decent shape my whole life and, never had much trouble physically. But I'd really stopped paying attention because I never had to work at it. I never had that challenge of like really having to take care of myself to be in decent shape or to look okay or, whatever. So that morning on the beach, I struggled like crazy, man, just on a short little run, like gasping for air. Judd's on here. He can speak to it. I mean, and I could tell the look on Judd's face was like, man, he was concerned. He was going to have to take me to the medical center when we were done. And to be totally transparent, I thought he might have to take me to the medical center too. But that morning, back then, earlier this year, I ended up finishing that workout, not even really. I mean, I went through it, but I was half-assing it the whole time because that's about the best I could give was probably half-assing it at that point. And we got back to Judd's house, and I ended up vomiting in the shower. I was so out of breath, out of whatever. I was just like exhausted. My body was pushed to the limits, and I thought like, man, this is terrible. Like, how did I get to this point? And, I think at that point I was like 224 pounds, 225 pounds. Actually, I didn't weigh myself there, so I don't know. But when, needless to say, I came home and I'm like, man, this is it. Like, I'm going to change this. So I started looking at things that I could do. And I ended up at the Arate Syndicate Summit, at the Arate Syndicate Live event in St. Louis. And it's the first time that I heard about this program, 75 Hard. And I bought a VIP ticket to that event, and I ended up at dinner with Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. And Andy Frisella was in the middle of his first round of 75 Hard. And so I'm looking at Andy, and Andy wasn't feeling well that day. He was like sweating through his shirt, like just crazy. And he left that dinner that we had at like 9-something at night, and he went off to work out, and it was raining and not the best weather in St. Louis that day. And I instantly thought to myself, like, man, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do to get, to get myself where I want to be. And so that's what I did. I committed to doing that program. There was a couple buddies of mine who were already in the middle of it. So I started. I just said, man, I'm going to do this. 75 days of 2-a-days, no cheat meals, drink a gallon of water every day. I'm gonna hit this hard and see what happens. And so there's a hill, which Keith Calloway was laughing at me because I told him there was a hill in front of my house that I couldn't make it up when I first started running. And when he came here to visit, he's like, man, that's not even really a hill. And now, after running this race with 4,000 feet of elevation, I can understand why he would say such a thing. But long story short, I couldn't run a mile, 2 miles, not even a chance, right? And but I just kept pushing. And when I couldn't run, I walked. I just kept my body moving. 45 minutes twice a day, every single day. Whether that was working out in the gym, running, whatever. And so, I started to see some progress. I lost almost 30 pounds in that 75 days. I started feeling the effects of the focus and the progress that I was making, not just in health and fitness, but in my life. And it became kind of like a new addiction for me. Like, it was like, man, I wanted to see what I was capable of, right? And so, as we started doing this, we started to be able to run longer distances. And, the longest distance before I committed to running this race that I ever ran was like, 6 to 10 miles, something like that, and somewhere in that range. And I never really kept track of it like that close. I would forget to start my app, whatever. So, but long story short, it was no big deal for me to peel off, 6 miles, 10 miles was not a big deal. I just didn't do it that often. And then I got signed up for this race and I'm like, man, I better start reading up on how to do this. And so I started increasing the amount that I was running, and I made it all the way up to over 20 something miles. The challenge that I had, and this is one of the lessons from this race, is that, in Pittsburgh, it's really difficult to duplicate that 4,000 feet of elevation because we don't really have hills like that or mountains like that, or at least that I'm aware of. And Derek Bauer is on here. He might be able to correct me. There might be some trails out there that I did not explore. But needless to say, I did not train with that type of elevation, in preparation for this race. My lungs were okay. My cardio was fine. I could have kept going. But when it came down to, my joints and my muscles, I got sick also during this race from like mile 3 to 6. Was not pretty. I was throwing up a couple of times because of what I ate that morning before the race. That's another lesson. Don't eat something funky before the race. I had a Starbucks breakfast sandwich and it didn't do well. So from miles 3 to 6, I was not feeling too good, and then that led to some cramping. My knees hurting, muscle cramping going up those hills, things like that, because I was dehydrated, right? And I kept drinking water. Every aid station I was filling up, but it just kept depleting out of my body as fast as I could put it in. In that 7 hours, you burn 9,000 calories, 10,000 calories, something like that, going up those hills, all that kind of stuff. Your heart rate's right around 180 beats per minute most of that time from the records that I got from my phone and from my runner's watch. But at the end of the day, it's one of the lessons that I learned was, do the best you can to duplicate whatever you're going to be running, duplicate that in your training. So, I was talking to Keith the other day, Sunday, when we were up at Mount St. Helens, and I said, man, it was how I would do it differently in my training is I would probably get on like a stair stepper at the gym and just go for 2 hours or 3 hours or, whatever it takes, because that's literally what we faced out there. It was like, a mile uphill straight, mile and a half. I don't even know how big some of the hills were. Maybe they were shorter than that, but they were just excruciatingly long hills, and there was a lot of them. And so it's hard to duplicate that. So, whatever you're preparing for, whether it's fitness, life, whatever, try to duplicate that scenario as closely as you possibly can so that when you get out there, your body's more prepared. You're always going to be pushing yourself a little bit further in the race than what you did during training, but at least you're a little bit more prepared than that. And for the downhills, I actually don't even know how I would duplicate that, because that was one of the hardest things of the race. Was, believe it or not, at first they were great because you're just cruising downhill and it feels good because you're not running uphill, and it's a little bit easier than running on the flat. But as the race went on, it literally, those were my longest miles, was going downhill, because my joints were my left knee was really, really banged up, and I couldn't get going. But I will tell you this, during that time, so where it starts to get really difficult, and I actually went back through my phone. I tried to record. I had no cell service out there, so I tried to record some videos of me just kind of talking into the camera so that I could kind of keep a record of like what it was like. So I've got, mile 8, mile 14, mile 20, mile 23 and a half, like, just on and on. I've got a lot of records, so I could go back and kind of see, and I can see for myself, like, I didn't look exhausted. I was hurting for sure. But nobody that runs a marathon or a 50K or anything like that is going to tell you that they feel great by mile 20 something. So, but I felt okay. What I will tell you is that I studied a lot of people that run these kinds of things. Jesse Itzler being one of them. There's a lot of people that I put time into just researching and figuring out what they do, how they prepare. I've got a guy that's going to be on this show, Peter Ward, who has run a 100-mile race, ultramarathon. And Peter I can't wait to interview him, and you guys will want to tune in when you see that show. I'm hoping to get him on here in the next couple of days. But he ran a race in Colorado, I believe, and he got to mile 96 of 100 and couldn't finish. And so I'm interested to ask him some questions about that, being as close as I was and not being able to finish, and just talk through that and how it feels, because it still feels like an accomplishment, but there's something missing, right? And I think that something missing, when used properly, can really be a gift. And so I think that in real life, I would say the same, right? That in real life, when you experience something, whether it's business or personal, and you fall a little bit short, that little bit short can be a real gift to us if we use it properly. If we don't, beat ourselves up, but really analyze it and see where we went wrong and go from there. But what I learned from those people that really did me a lot of justice out in the woods was that this will keep you going far further than you think is possible. And so one of the things that I got from Jesse Itzler was, and I was telling Judd this on the phone yesterday, I just kept repeating to myself, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. And then as my knees started hurting, I started saying, these knees will take me 31 miles to myself, out loud, in the woods by myself. You might think that looks crazy. However, when you're running that type of race, and it's such a mental challenge, it's you versus you, right? Until your body breaks down and won't take you any further, or you're not allowed to go any further, it is you versus you. It's what you do in your own head that is going to that makes the difference of whether you make it or you don't make it. And the reality is that I probably lost some of those battles along the way. I do believe that there were a couple, unforeseen circumstances that I ran into, but I also believe that I could have ran that race better, and I probably could have finished had I gained enough time that I would have made that cutoff. Because, from mile 3 to mile 6, it took me a while because I was not feeling too well. But there were a lot of points where I could have probably picked up some time, and that's the learning experience, right? But that positive self-talk, I think, goes far further than running. It's, there are things that happen in our lives all the time that make us, and I don't care how mentally strong you are. There's a lot of people out there that don't even work on their mental toughness or their discipline. And for those people, I feel for them, because they are on the roller coaster of life, and wherever that roller coaster goes is where they end up. And that's a tough spot to live your life in. Versus, you get around the right people, you get around people that are mentally tough. I think it's awesome. I haven't really been super close to Derek Bauer for years, but as soon as he saw that I was running this race, he was dialed in and supporting me and sending me messages. And So many people. Derek's just one of them. But it's cool because I believe that Derek has a lot of the same aspirations in life that I do. I think that a lot of the people that watch this show have similar aspirations. So when you get around those people, I got a text from Eli last night. So Keith signed me up, right? And so in turn, I paid it forward and I signed Eli up. And I'm going to read this text message. I hope he doesn't mind. I don't think he will. But he said this, and I think it's telling because this is what happens when you get around the right people. And it actually says this in the text. But when you get around the right people, you end up doing things that you didn't think you were capable of. He said, "Hey, bro, so I finally got home, and I just want to say a huge thank you. It's crazy what happens when you surround yourself with the right people. Without you or Keith, I would have never even thought about signing up for a 50K. It's just one small feat in the big things that are to come for all three of us. So again, thank you for pushing me to measures I would have never thought were possible." That's what life is about, guys. It's about getting friends that will literally, as Keith said in his story yesterday, find friends that will climb mountains with you. And find friends that find a better version of you than you believe you have. And find friends that will support you, whether or not you win or lose, finish or not finish, that will look you in the eyes and say that they're proud of you and they mean it. And you know that they mean it. And so at the end of the day, what I learned from this race was a couple of things. That your mind will take you further than you think if you are mentally tough enough. That preparation is the key to success in every situation in life, especially in those types of scenarios in a race like that. It is having the right support system means everything. I can't even tell you guys, like, I didn't have cell service while I was out there, just a couple of times here and there. But every time I got cell service in those woods, I was getting messages from people. I was getting messages from my kids, voice notes saying, "Daddy, we're so proud of you," blah, blah. And for those of you guys, like, I just got chills thinking about all of those messages, because those messages, when you are out there pushing yourself to a limit that you've never been to before, and you question everything, right? It's human nature to start questioning yourself, questioning what you're doing, questioning the pain that you're putting yourself through. It is that love, that support, those words of encouragement that make all the difference. And so when you think about those things from a race, and I think about those lessons that I learned, those really aren't lessons about a race. And that race, as much as it will teach me about the next time, as much as it taught me that I will be able to use in the next race, what it really taught me was enormous lessons about life. And that if we treat every single day of our lives like one of those races, that we cheer for people, we support people, we look for things that people are doing that we can get behind, that we can support. And we're there for each other. We encourage each other. We tell each other that we're proud of each other. Life just gets a whole lot better. And, that's, and you're going to fill somebody up. I can't even tell you the gratitude that I have for the number of people that were out there supporting us. Keith's whole family was there. There was a bunch of people that came out there to cheer us on. And, it was just awesome, and I said to the other guys too, like, I believe that, running truly brings out the best in people. When you're out there and you see people on the side, I never saw one runner run past somebody, that was off to the side, whether it was tying their shoe or they were grabbing a drink. "Hey, you doing okay? Great job, man. Great job. Great job." Like, every single person that passed each other, "Great job, man. Keep pushing, keep pushing." And I'm telling you, like, for any of you who have run a race and you experience that, you're out there by yourself, there's nobody around you, and somebody comes up behind you and says, "Great job, man. Keep pushing." It's like putting jet fuel in your tank. You find a higher gear, you push harder, you keep going. And so the lesson there, guys, is that we are put on this earth to coexist with other human beings for a reason. And that reason is not to tear each other down, which a lot of people try to do in today's world. It is to lift each other up, to be there, to help each other find that higher gear, to believe in those other people around you, find their gifts, tell them great job, encourage them, all those things. And this isn't a rah-rah session this morning. It's reality, guys. I have lived this in my own life, and having run that race this weekend and put my body through. Derek, by the way, asked about my knees and my legs. It is hard to describe for those of you who haven't run a race that distance what it feels like when you wake up the next morning. My wife was talking about, man, the pain. I wish I could be there to help you or take the pain away. And my response to her was as honest as I could be, and I still feel it today. Like in a weird kind of way, I don't mind the pain because I earned it. I went out there and did something that I wasn't even sure that I was capable of doing. I never ran a race before in my life. And I found out after that race that it's one of or the most difficult, 50K that there is from an elevation standpoint. It's like crazy. For those of you who haven't run one, man, just to go out there and look up those hills, I was like, whew, what did I get myself into? But you enjoy those accomplishments and you take the time to take it all in. And my knees and my legs feel a lot better today than they did yesterday. They feel a lot better yesterday than they did the day before. Yesterday at times, because I was on a plane twice and walking around quite a bit, there were some uncomfortable moments. But this morning I woke up early, took a nice Epsom salt bath, and that loosened up my muscles quite a bit. So it feels a lot better today than it did, the previous couple of days. But we just kept moving. We went up to Mount St. Helens the day after. Yesterday I was walking around. I did a parking lot assessment during my layover in Dallas. So staying moving helps a lot. But yeah, Derek, my knee is still sore. It's pretty sore in certain ways that I turn. It certainly has some pain to it, but I think it's going to be okay. And my right knee is just sore in general, not as bad as the left one. And but yesterday, man, my thighs, my quads felt like somebody hit them with a meat tenderizer. I'm not even kidding you. I was sitting at the airport thinking, like, what does the inside of my legs look like right now? It's got to be a brutal sight in there. But any rate, guys, that's enough for this morning. I'm going to sign off here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I will be back tomorrow. I'll post before I confirm. I'm trying to confirm with the guy's name is Peter Ward, the 100-miler that I'll have on here. I met the guy on the beach in Anguilla. We were at Belmont Capchaluca with the kids in the ocean, having some fun. Him and his girlfriend were down there vacationing. Met him on the beach, told him he had to meet my buddy Judd, and lo and behold, months later I get a call from him, and he is now selling real estate at the Four Seasons in Anguilla, and him and Judd work out pretty much every single morning. And that is so cool, man, when you meet. I told him that day, I'm like, man, you got to meet Judd. He's a great guy, and if you're going to come back to Anguilla, you definitely want to know him. And lo and behold, now they live on the same island, and they're friends. So, but stay tuned for Peter Ward, because that's going to be an awesome interview. He's just an incredible guy. He finished 102 miles right here in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm interested to get the information about the 96 miles when he was unable to finish. And then compare that to what it felt like when he finished in Cleveland. So, but I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow morning right here, 7:30, same place, same time. Love you guys.